shit's about to get real. Here we go again. I will never know. This shit's about to get real.
Hello my friends, Scott here representing Youth Potential. We're now on part 3 of my experience as an inpatient in a mental health hospital. So at the end of the last video I spoke about my first ward review. I'm now going to talk about my second ward review. My second ward review was actually about my discharge, and just before I went in, because what they have like a board where it shows you all the members of staff, what they're doing and what's happening throughout the day, like a communication kind of board, and my name was on second in line to have a ward review. So I sat outside the door because there was like this little room where they do the ward reviews, and I was starting to get really anxious. I was really happy that morning because I was like, oh, maybe I can get out, maybe I won't. But when you've been in there for kind of like 8 days, and you kind of, I don't know, everyone's different obviously, but I didn't feel kind of ready for it at first, and I kind of knew that there was a hint that I might be let out on that Monday, and I was really anxious. Okay, I stood outside the door waiting for my turn, and the anxiety kicked in so bad I started to have a panic attack. It was actually the 4th panic attack I've ever had, and it was the worst one I ever had. My heart started racing, you know, my breathing started getting really deep. I went into the room where my name was called, and I sat there, and because of all the oxygen coming in from this panic attack, I started to get really lightheaded, and I really struggled to focus on what the doctors and the consultants were saying to me. They were asking me questions about, you know, like where would I go once I get discharged. I told them where I'd go, obviously here. And they asked about like what I thought about my safety and this kind of thing, and that's kind of all I could really get from them. And when they spoke to me, I didn't really understand what they were saying because my head was getting so light, and I was starting to be really disassociated from that situation through the panic attack, and I was just really struggling to breathe. And then they asked me how I was going to get home. I remember getting my phone out of my pocket and trying to read a text message from my mum, where she had messaged me the previous day telling me when it was appropriate for me to get picked up. And I remember looking at the message, and my vision was quite blurry, and when it came into focus, I just couldn't understand what this message had said because of this panic attack that I was experiencing. It was so difficult to try and make sense of anything. I didn't understand what the consultants and doctors were telling me. I didn't understand what this message was. I'd been given a bit of some paperwork with a care plan, and I just couldn't make sense of any of it. So when they let me go, I walked out of there. They told me I was I was ready for discharge somehow. And then I went in the TV area, and I just sat down, and it was getting worse. My heart was racing, and my breaths were so deep and fast. I was really struggling, and I said I needed to get outside. So I went out in the little garden area, and my panic attack was just getting so intense. I sat down, and my hands and fingers were tingling. I could barely feel anything. My legs were tingling, and they were going like numb and tingling. And I sat down, and then my hands got kind of stuck in this position. It's really weird, and my eyes were closed, and I was breathing so heavily and so fast. It was really scary. I'd never had a panic attack like that before. And then from what I could just about make out, someone was telling me to sit down on the bench, so I did. I was kind of stuck in this hunched position. It was really surreal, and everything seemed so far, my reality seemed so far away. I felt like I was in this little moment where I was kind of stuck, and my eyes were closed. I struggled to open my eyes, and I could just hear this voice coming at me saying, breathe slowly, Scott, exhale slowly. So I really tried to focus on that, and then my breathing was a bit more controlled. It took a while, but I could feel myself kind of regaining a more conscious state, and the tingling sensations were starting to disappear from me. And this, bless her, April her name was, this student mental health nurse was talking to me. She noticed my tattoos, she started talking about that and asking me questions about my normal life, and that really helped with the panic attack. That really kind of turned things away, and after God knows how long, I kind of just regained this normal calm state, and I just thought, I am really hungry right now. And I felt really shaky. So after this conversation with April, I felt much better, went to my room, had a Lucozade just to kind of get that kind of blood sugar level back up, so to speak. And I got my stuff ready, got it all packed, and yeah, spoke to my mum, and she came and picked me up. So that's kind of it, really. I don't know if you guys are expecting more from my experiences, but seriously, when I say it's boring in there and every day feels so the same, it really does. If you want to kind of, if you're going to be an inpatient, I really recommend, and I've said this throughout these videos plenty of times, I really recommend that you form friendships with people in there. It's so important. It's gonna kill so much time. It's gonna make you feel so good. Like, the friendships I made with people in there were so good. I felt appreciated, and I really hope I made the other patients feel appreciated. That's the most important thing. Okay, you definitely got to form friendships and socialise in there. Okay, definitely get yourself involved in occupational therapies if that's something you can do. Just try and get out of your room. Don't spend your entire time there as an inpatient in your room. If you can get outside at any point just for some fresh air, if you're allowed to do that, that would be fantastic. Make sure you communicate with the nurses. Don't be afraid to ask questions. If you want to know what's going on, ask. Try and get someone, even if you don't want any visitors, get a friend or a family member to bring you stuff that's going to keep you occupied, because as I say, it is so dull. Okay, if you can get them to bring a book or a portable games console, a laptop, sketch pad and drawing pencils, or anything like that, anything that you're allowed to have in there, just try and bring something to just pass the time. Because the last thing you need, okay, and this is what happened to me on the first day, the last thing you need is to sit in your room or on your bed or wherever it is and be alone with your thoughts, okay? Because while you're in there as an inpatient, it is so easy for your mind to dwell upon negative things, okay? That happened to me a lot on the first sort of day in there, the first sort of like day and a half, and it was unpleasant. I was just sitting there thinking about all sorts of unpleasantries, okay? But socialising with people, keeping myself busy and occupied, that's what helped with my recovery. That's what helped get me out of there quicker, okay? So please take that in. Don't isolate yourself. It's the worst thing you can do as an inpatient, okay? Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching these 3 videos. I really appreciate it. As I said in the first one, please, I want to know about your experiences if you've been an inpatient. I find it really interesting. If you have any questions about being an inpatient, as I say, everyone's going to have different experiences depending on the hospital and the nature as to why you've gone in there, but I will try and answer as much as I can. Please, yeah, be safe. Thank you, guys. All the best.